Imagine walking through your front door 24 hours from now and feeling a sense of total calm. Every surface clear, every room readable. That particular weight you've been carrying every time you look around, gone. That's not a fantasy. That's what happens when you stop trying to organize harder and start organizing the way professionals actually do it. And if your home feels like complete chaos right now, that's not a disqualifier. It's exactly the condition this system was built for. Here's what's different about the way a professional organizer works. They don't start by doing more. They start by thinking first. And the method they use, the actual sequence a professional follows, is something almost no one outside the industry ever sees laid out in full. That's what this video does, step by step. The way it works in real homes with real accumulation and real physical limits. Not the version designed to look effortless on camera, the version that actually holds up. And before anything else, the 24 hours in the title. That's not a single marathon day of non-stop work. No professional organizer would ask that of anyone, and it wouldn't serve you if they did. 24 hours is the total framework, spread across a day in structured blocks, with rest built in, and paced specifically for someone who has been living in their home long enough for it to really accumulate. If you can give focused attention in manageable stretches, this works. That's the only requirement. The first thing that surprises most people when they actually watch a professional organizer at work is what they don't do at the start. They don't open the first drawer they see. They don't start sorting. They don't grab a bin and begin filling it. Before a single item moves, a professional does a complete walk of the home. Every room, every surface, every closet they can glance into, and they do it without picking anything up. This is called the map walk, and it is the single most important thing that separates a one-day transformation from a project that stalls halfway through the bedroom and never recovers. The purpose of the map walk is to let your brain process the full picture before your hands start making decisions. When you move straight into sorting without that overview, you're making hundreds of small decisions with no sense of the whole. You start running out of steam by mid-morning. You start strong, you slow down, and eventually you're sitting on the bedroom floor surrounded by things you've already moved twice, wondering why you feel so depleted. The map walk prevents that. It turns what feels like an impossible mass of accumulated life into a readable layout with a clear starting point. Now, if your first thought is, "My home is too far gone for a walkthrough to help anything," that's actually the most common thing professionals hear at the start of a job. And it's almost always wrong. The homes that feel most chaotic on the surface are frequently the ones where the map walk is most clarifying, because the chaos isn't as total as it feels. It's concentrated in specific zones. It has a shape. Once you can see that shape, the path through it becomes visible. The walk doesn't fix anything, it just makes the problem readable. And a readable problem is a solvable one. During the walk, you're doing a quick sort in your mind of everything you see. Not a detailed pass, just a first impression. Does this belong in this room? Does it belong in the house at all? Or is it genuinely unclear? Those three categories, stays here, leaves this room, leaves the house, are the only filters you need at this stage. You're not making final decisions yet. You're orienting. And for a home that's been lived in for 20, 30, or 40 years, this walk alone can be quietly clarifying in a way that almost nothing else is. The home stops feeling like a problem you need to escape and starts feeling like a space you understand again. Once the map walk is done, this is where the system really starts to take shape. Because professionals move through the house in a specific zone sequence that most people would never intuitively choose. They always start with high-traffic spaces first. The kitchen surfaces, the living room, the main bathroom. Not because those spaces are the easiest, but because visible progress in the places you use most every single day creates the emotional momentum that carries all the harder work that comes later. If you start in a bedroom closet or a storage room, you can work for 3 solid hours, and the house looks exactly the same from the hallway. That's demoralizing in a way that makes people quit. Professionals start where the wins show fastest, because they know what sustains a full day of this kind of work. Personal spaces. The bedroom, the bedside table, anything that holds clothing or daily personal items come after the high traffic zones are settled, and storage spaces, whether that's a garage, a basement, a hall closet, or that one room that quietly became the final resting place for everything without a home, those come last. Always last. Not because they're unimportant, but because by the time you reach them, you've already built visible evidence across the rest of the home that the system works. And that evidence matters enormously when the harder decisions arrive. There's also a rule professionals apply throughout the entire process that sounds almost too simple to be meaningful, but it changes everything in practice. Nothing that's been placed in a completed zone gets pulled back into it during the same session. Once the kitchen is done, it's done. You're not revisiting it every time you find something in the bedroom that might belong there. Instead, you keep a staging area, usually near the front door or just inside the garage, where everything that's leaving its current room collects until the full pass is complete. That boundary is what stops the day from becoming an endless loop of moving things from one surface to another without any real resolution. Now, here's the part that actually makes this work, and it has nothing to do with bins, labels, or storage systems. The reason most organizing projects collapse is not the physical effort. It's the decisions. Specifically, it's the objects that carry weight beyond their practical function. The things that belong to someone you loved, the things you bought during a chapter of your life that no longer exists, the things you kept because releasing them felt like a kind of betrayal. Professional organizers encounter this in nearly every home they work in, and it's especially present in homes where someone has been living and collecting for decades. The framework they use is built around 3 questions, and none of them is the generic advice you've probably come across before. The first is this object serving the life I'm living right now? Not the life I lived 20 years ago, and not the life I imagine I might live someday? That single shift to the present tense clears away a significant amount of the paralysis around what to keep. The second question is, if this broke tomorrow, would I actually replace it? If the honest answer is no, the object is being kept out of habit, not genuine need. And the third, the one that matters most for this particular season of life, is, am I keeping this out of guilt or out of fear? Not love, not usefulness. Guilt or fear? That question, asked honestly, does more than any storage solution ever will. If that feels heavy right now, take a breath. Professionals don't work through these questions all at once, and neither should you. They apply them one object at a time, moving through a room steadily, rather than standing in the middle of it trying to process everything simultaneously. That's the only way the framework actually functions. One decision, one object, one moment at a time. This is where most people get it wrong. They try to answer these questions in bulk quickly, while feeling overwhelmed by the scale of the room around them. That guarantees paralysis. Slow down, pick something up, Ask the question, make the decision, set it in its category, pick up the next thing. When you pick something up, you make the decision then. You don't set it aside. You don't create a maybe pile. A maybe pile is where organizing goes to die, because every item in it is a decision you're going to face again later with less energy and more resistance than you have right now. The decision happens the first time the object is in your hand, not a rushed decision, a made one. And then there's the category that doesn't fit neatly into any framework. The things that carry grief, not just memory. The coat that belonged to someone you lost. The dishes from a marriage. The children's things still boxed in the spare room no reframe fully eliminates. The weight of those objects, and it would be dishonest to suggest otherwise. What professional organizers offer, and it's not a perfect solution, just a more honest one, is a different question to hold while you decide, not should I keep this, but what do I want this object's story to be from here? Some things genuinely belong with you for the rest of your life. Others have already finished their chapter in your home, and finding somewhere useful for them to go next is a real act of care for the object and for whoever might need it. That framing doesn't make the decision painless. It just makes it possible to make. And sometimes that's enough to move forward. If this is already shifting how you're thinking about what's possible in your home, make sure you're subscribed, because the second half of this is where the system moves from planning into doing. And there's one specific step coming up that most people skip entirely, and then wonder why everything slides back to chaos within a few weeks. With the map, the zone sequence, and the decision framework in place, the execution phase follows a rhythm that builds on everything that came before it. The morning hours belong to high-traffic spaces, kitchen surfaces, living areas, the main bathroom. These are mostly practical decisions, which means they move faster. You're not navigating grief in the kitchen junk drawer. You're deciding what's genuinely used and what's just occupying space out of habit. In practice, what this looks like in a typical kitchen is straightforward. A professional starts with the surfaces, countertops, the top of the refrigerator, anything sitting in open view. Everything comes off. The counter is cleared completely. Then items go back only if they're used at least 3 or 4 times a week. The coffee maker stays. The decorative bowl filled with random batteries and expired coupons does not. From there, she moves to the area nearest the sink, then the pantry, if there is one, then the drawers. One zone at a time, working outward from the most used point in the room. It's not dramatic, it's methodical. And by the time the kitchen is finished, which typically takes 2 to 3 hours for an average-sized kitchen, the energy in the rest of the day shifts, because you can see it working. This is where things start to change, not just in the physical space, but in how the rest of the day feels. Visible progress in a room you use every morning is not a small thing. It's the thing that carries you into the harder rooms later. The afternoon moves into the bedroom and personal areas. By this point in the day, you've already made a significant number of decisions, and the emotional ones will ask more of you. That's not a warning. It's just an honest description of the work. Professional organizers who work regularly with clients over 60 always build in rest periods roughly every 90 minutes. Not as a courtesy, but because the energy genuinely needs to hold across the full arc of the day. 20 minutes of stillness every hour and a half is not a concession to limitations. It's how the work actually gets finished. Storage spaces and overflow rooms close the day. By the time you reach them, the visible evidence of everything else you've accomplished makes what would have felt impossible in the morning feel entirely workable. The home has changed around those spaces, and that change is legible. It carries you through. Throughout all of it, the staging area near the door is accumulating everything that's leaving, not set aside in a corner to deal with later, not stacked somewhere for next weekend, out of the living space and ready to go. That distinction matters more than it seems. As long as the things you've decided to release are still physically in the rooms they came from, the space doesn't feel different. The moment they move to the staging area, the rooms begin to breathe. The finish of a professional job has its own logic, and it's worth understanding before you reach that point in the day. Professionals don't organize by room, they organize by category. Medications, wherever they were previously scattered, come together in one place. Financial documents, regardless of which drawer or box they were living in, come together. Batteries, tools, letters, photographs. Category by category, not room by room. This is the move that makes a home feel coherent rather than just tidied. It also makes daily life easier in ways that compound quietly over time, because you always know exactly where to find what you're looking for. Surface discipline is another mark of a professional finish. A surface with 5 things on it reads as ordered. The same surface with 12 reads as cluttered, regardless of how neatly those 12 things are arranged. Professionals work toward roughly 30% occupancy on visible surfaces, meaning most of the surface stays clear. And it's worth holding to, even when it means making a few more decisions about what genuinely earns its place in open view. Labels have a place in this, but a narrower one than most people assume. The only spaces that reliably benefit from labeling in a private home are shared storage areas and anything inside a container that can't be seen through. Labeling every shelf and every surface beyond that is mostly performative. It looks organized without necessarily functioning that way. The final walkthrough mirrors the opening one. You move through the entire home, not to check a list, but to read the space as a whole and let the day's work register fully. That's how professionals close every job. It's also how you feel in your body what 24 hours of intentional work actually produced. But the biggest mistake people make isn't how they organize. It's what they do the day after. If you skip this next part, the chaos will return within a month, not gradually. Predictably, every professional organizer ends a job by building a maintenance system, because without one, the home drifts back within 30 to 60 days. Not because the work wasn't real, because no new habit replaced the old pattern. This isn't a character flaw. It's just how homes and human routines actually work. The maintenance system is simpler than most people expect, and that simplicity is intentional, because complicated systems don't survive real life. It's a 15-minute daily reset, not cleaning, not reorganizing, just returning everything that moved during the day back to its designated place before you go to bed. What that looks like in practice: the remote goes back where it belongs, the coat goes on its hook, the mail goes in its designated spot, even if it hasn't been opened yet. The kitchen counter gets cleared of whatever landed on it since morning. You're not solving anything in those 15 minutes. You're making sure the drift doesn't compound. Because drift is how chaos comes back. Not in one dramatic event, but in small accumulations that go unaddressed, long enough to feel overwhelming all over again. This doesn't mean your home will be perfect. It won't. Some weeks, the reset slips and things pile up. That's not failure. That's life. The difference between a home that stays organized and one that doesn't isn't perfection. It's whether you have a reliable way back when things slip. The 15-minute reset is that way back every single time. Every 90 days or so, set aside an hour, maybe a little more, to walk the home and catch anything that's drifted before it becomes a project again. And when new things come into the home, let something go in return. Not as a rigid daily rule, but as a general practice that keeps the balance honest over time. For anyone living alone, many professional organizers notice something they didn't fully anticipate when they first started this work. The daily reset often becomes more than a household habit. It becomes a way of closing the day with intention, a brief, quiet passage from the activity of the day into the stillness of the evening. Something entirely under your own authority, in a space that genuinely reflects the life you're living now. That turns out to matter quite a bit more than people expect. Your home has held decades of your life. That's not a problem to be solved. It's a context to be honored. Getting organized at this stage isn't about becoming a different person or living with less than you need. It's about making the space you already have work clearly and calmly for the life you're actually living right now. This system won't fix everything in one pass. Some rooms will need a second look. Some decisions will take longer than you expect, but the structure holds. And if you follow it in order, the home at the end of 24 hours will feel genuinely different from the one you started in. If you want to go deeper on any specific piece of this, clearing a family member's belongings, getting a small bedroom under control, or what to actually do with a lifetime of paperwork, those videos are already on this channel, and if there's a specific room or situation you'd like covered next, drop it in the comments below. That's genuinely how this channel decides what to make.